So tomorrow, Halo Infinite's campaign releases, and I'm very, very, very excited for that. But I wanted to make this video that is going to focus on more negative things, again, because I kind of ranted about the theater mode about a week ago, but I really wanted to actually dive into why I think the theater mode is broken and messed up and bad, and give some 343 some direction so they can actually fix some things. Some helpful criticism as opposed to just aimlessly ranting at the camera like I did before. So I have a whole list. I'm structuring this video, but I just wanted to say that there are a lot of positive things I have to say about this game as well, but I'm getting this out of the way today because I kind of want to get all of my current negative gripes out of the way before the campaign releases. So then I can just focus on the campaign and some of the positive things about multiplayer. That being said, I know that there's a lot more negative going on than the theater mode, but I feel like a lot of other people that I watch have said that well enough. If you're curious to see some of that stuff, I will link a video of the Actmans down in the description, and another video that I watch about the progression system, if I can find it, because they have some very good points as to the other problems. And I think the Actman mentions the theater problems, but he doesn't go very in-depth into it, so that's kind of what I plan to do in this video, talk about all the issues with the theater system that I see that I want to be fixed, because I very much so do not appreciate them. Again, that being said, there's a lot of good things to talk about in the future. I'm getting this out of the way today before the campaign releases so that I can focus on more positive stuff while I'm playing the campaign. So let's start with glitches and bugs. To begin with, this theater mode's history. From the surprise launch on November 15th, the theater immediately had a major issue. Some games would be recorded, and you could go back and watch them. Some games would not. And I'm pretty sure that all matches were not able to be watched once they left your recent matches, even if you had them bookmarked. So basically, it was like a 50-50 toss-up if you even got to watch a match back when you played it, for one. And for two, it was on a time limit anyways, unless you just stopped playing the game. Once it was 16 or more matches in the past, it would just get deleted. So that's issue number one. I don't know if they actually ever fixed the second part of that issue. I don't know. That could be the issue that I had this past week. But it does seem like they fixed the first part. It seems like I've been able to go into my theater mode and watch every single match after it happens. So they have been making progress. But, as you know, what caused me to do the whole ranting video, the next big glitch, maybe it's on purpose, I don't know, on their end to save server space, I think I mentioned that. The next thing was that it just deleted all of my bookmarked films. I had a lot of bookmarked films, they'd been there for a while, and if I'm not misremembering, some of them were no longer in recent matches, and I could still go back and view them. But one day, I log in to make a video. I'm going to record some of the stuff, make a highlights video of all the cool stuff that happened, including a triple kill, almost an overkill with the skewer, which would have been so cool to show off, because that's so hard to do. I was so proud of myself for that, and that was one of the things that I had in that library, as well as a 20 kill spree with the Scorpion the first time I used it, which was also just a fun thing to experience, and I would have loved to show off the ending of that clip on the channel, or just to have those footage as keepsakes of like the first time I used the Scorpion and the time I got almost an overkill with the skewer. That would have been really cool stuff to have, you know, but that I went into my theater, and I can still go into my theater, that they're still bookmarked films, but the footage is just gone. I can't watch the matches back, and it sucks. It really sucks. I really wish that that wasn't the case. I still have them on my bookmarks because there's a part of me that hopes that somehow those files still exist and they're gonna fix the theater and then I'll be able to watch them again. But I know that's not the case. The files have probably long since been deleted. And I just wish that that wasn't the case. And that's the whole thing that I made the Shame on You 343 video about that upset me very much. These are some of the things that are very obvious that have already been talked about. Now I want to get into the more in-depth stuff that I've noticed about the theater that I have serious issues with. Another bug or glitch that happens pretty commonly is issues with starting up the theater. I've tried to start up the theater a few times, and I know to wait the normal minute and a half or so to get past the intro sequence of a game, but the theater just freezes. Like this screen that only has half of the map being shown, and then the other half is like just a color that looks really glitched out or something, like the theater just messes up. Or I will click on watching a theater mode and it just says loading error and I have to restart the game. And sometimes restarting the game doesn't fix some of these issues, and sometimes you have to restart it multiple times or restart your computer or console. And these are kind of minor things that I'm talking about right now. Like, these glitches are not that common. and they're not that frustrating because it's pretty simple to just restart the game. But that being said, I'm talking about them because there's so many issues with the theater that it's important to talk about them. There's minor glitches where the theater, if you don't know, the theater basically does a replay of the match, play by play. It's not just a recording. That way you can actually go through and free cam from different angles and stuff like that, because it's actually like rebuilding and redoing the match in real time. And it just has memory of what everyone did, and then while it's doing that, you can go and view things from different angles. As far as I understand, that is how Halo theater modes have worked for a very long time. That's cool, but it's been done since Halo 3. So there seems to be some playback issues within that, though. I've seen various glitches where I see Spartans just sliding across the floor instead of their legs moving to walk. Again, not that big of a deal, kind of a funny bug, but not when you throw it on the pile with all the other bugs and glitches. There seems to be other glitches where you can randomly just start spectating a different player when you're doing theater mode. Like, I've been trying to get recordings of theater mode stuff where I'm spectating my character, Theobodium, I'm spectating my Spartan, and it just randomly switches to another point of view from a different Spartan, and I don't understand why at all, or the camera freezes when you try to go into the free view mode, where you're flying around. The camera has frozen in that mode plenty of times for me. Another one, fast forward. Sometimes I will try and click on a section of the playback on the timeline at the bottom, and it plays, but it's in fast forward for some reason, and I didn't tell it to do that. And again, it's a simple fix, just press pause and play, and it starts playing at normal speed. But it's little things like that that are constantly being added up. If you take away the UI of the theater mode, which also takes away the Spartan UI, which I'm going to talk about in a second, you'll just get random points on the screen. Like, if your character gets, like, if you got a kill in the game, and the points will show up on the screen, or some points, not even the points from that kill, some random points that says like plus 100 or plus 125 for whatever kill or an assist or something like that. It'll pop up on your screen, and it'll just stay there for the entire rest of the theater that you're playing it, and no other points will pop up on the screen or interfere, but they'll just get a glitch, and it happens literally every single time that you watch a theater mode from someone's perspective without having the UI activated. You just get random points popping up on the screen, and then they just stay there for the rest of the recording. And actually, there's a perfect example of that in the video I released 2 days ago, the one called Battle of the Flag Bearers, because in that one, when I killed the enemy flag bearer, the points stayed on the screen for the rest of the recording. What you don't know is that when I was initially recording that video, I had to do 5 takes of a pre-recorded thing because that kept happening. It over and over again, mid-video, before I was willing to let something like that slip. Before I encountered the enemy flag bearer, out of nowhere, points would just appear on the screen, and they would just stay there. And that's really frustrating to me, because it just kind of ruins the natural gameplay flow that I was going for, that I wanted to make it look like it was kind of like it was when I actually played it. It's a very frustrating thing. But that's it for bugs and glitches for now. That's all that I can think of off of the top of my head. I know that there's plenty more that I haven't experienced, and some that I'm probably forgetting, but that's what I've got right now, and what I wrote down. But now I want to move on to some very questionable features, I guess I would call them. Maybe they are bugs and glitches, but they annoy me, very much so, and I really wish that 343 would change them. Number one, the primary thing. And if you've watched my videos that I've recorded through the theater mode, or you've used the theater mode, you probably know about this. But for some reason, the enemy team is the allied color, and your team, including yourself, appears as the enemy color. So if you have classic red and blue, the opposing team is blue, and your team, including you, is red, highlighted in red. Even though you're the one who recorded the match, and it's being played from your perspective, it treats you as the enemy, and this is something that I have seen 100% of the time. Every time I go into theater, my team is the enemy team, and the other team is the allied team. I don't understand why it can't just record the match from your perspective. Or it is, because it's consistent 100% of the time, but it for some reason flips that perspective, where you're the enemy, and the main announcer actually is speaking from the perspective of the other team first. So whenever you win a match, it says defeat, because it's from the other team's perspective, because they're the allied, because they're in blue. Why is that a feature? Why is... because And I say it's a feature because it's every single time. It's not a bug. It happens every single time. It is just a fact about this game's theater mode. But why? Why is the perspective flipped like that? It doesn't make any sense. I just don't understand why it would be like that. And why is it also like both perspectives simultaneously? Because a lot of times it won't just say defeat, it will say defeat, victory. But it'll say victory second because defeat is the primary thing, because again, it thinks that the enemy team is actually the allied team. The team that you are not on is your team, is basically what it thinks, I guess. So I don't understand that quote-unquote feature, but I really want them to change that, because it's very odd. It's just something that's really weird, and it makes making any type of content out of the theater mode, which isn't really the biggest concern, but straight up just watching back a theater mode match, very confusing. Like, it's very hard to tell what's going on sometimes because of the reversed colors and the reversed announcer. It's very, very weird, and I really do not appreciate that. Next thing, the theater UI cannot be hidden unless the Spartan UI is also hidden. You can hide the theater UI, which I enjoy, because I like to be able to watch a match back without the timeline bar on the bottom and without the control-like panel on the right telling you what buttons you can press to do certain things. Again, I appreciate the theater UI. I'm not saying it shouldn't be there, of course. It's very helpful, it's very simple, and I enjoy that. But in order to hide the theater UI, which it gives you the option to do, once you do that, it also hides the entire Spartan UI. So you don't have a reticle, you don't have a radar, you don't have an ammo count, a grenade count, your shields are not on screen, everything's just gone. And you're just holding a weapon, and you can't see where the player's shooting. When you kill something, you don't get assist points on screen, you don't get kill points on screen, you don't get score points on screen. When you capture a zone, or when you capture a flag, none of that stuff happens. It's just no UI. If you don't want the theater UI, you get no UI. And I don't really understand why. I don't know why you can't... If you want no UI, I perfectly respect that. Actually, I love that, because as a YouTuber, it makes for better thumbnail opportunities to take all of the UI stuff off the screen. But why is there not another layer to that? Why can't you remove the theater UI but keep the Spartan UI? So that it looks like... or so that it looks similar to when you were playing it, when you were actually in the match, as opposed to having to have other stuff covering your screen or nothing covering your screen, including the Spartan, what the Spartan should see. That's another big feature complaint from me that I really want you to fix, 343. Another one, and again, this should be a bug in my opinion, but I classify it as a feature because it's consistent. No matter what match you are playing, this is a fact. You can hear several announcers. So you know how you have your player announcer that says stuff for you, like when you get kills and stuff like that, which already talk a little bit too much, questionably speaking, depending upon what opinion you have on that, perfectly fine. But my point being is that they already talk a lot, and you can always hear your announcer, but you can't hear everything your announcer says because he gets talked over by other announcers. In fact, it's always, I think it's just one other announcer. And it's the announcer of an unknown player. I don't know what player it latches onto for the other announcer, but no matter what player you're spectating, the only two announcers that you can hear are yours and the other mystery player's announcer that, again, I don't know where it pulls that announcer from, but for some reason there's always two announcers at once in the theater mode. I mean, two personal Spartan AIs talking. And I think typically one of them is on the enemy team. That's my guess, though, because I don't actually know. I've never figured out where the other one is coming from, but it just doesn't make any sense because it's always the same two, no matter who you spectate. If I spectate myself, I get my announcer and mystery player's announcer. If I spectate my friend that I played the match with, I hear my announcer and mystery announcer, the same mystery announcer. Doesn't matter who you're spectating, or if you are going free cam, you can hear two announcers. And it's really jarring. It's really weird, because you'll be walking around spectating yourself, and you'll get compliments from an announcer that isn't yours, that is talking about something unrelated. It's just really weird. It's really weird to see that happen. And it makes watching everything really confusing. Again, it's another thing that is 100% consistent. It's just a feature of the theater, basically, that is a frustrating and very weird thing. to deal with that just adds to the confusion of watching a theater mode back in this game. That's what I would say. Overall, I would say that this game's theater mode is just confusing. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I can give. One last thing, I know this is nitpicky, but I'm just trying to get everything out there that I've thought of. This one is definitely nitpicky, but whenever you have the UI hidden, you cannot interact with the theater playing. So the only thing you can do when the UI is hidden, the theater UI, is to unhide the theater UI. You cannot pause, you cannot rewind, and you cannot fast forward, which I think is a bad decision. I feel like you should be able to do those things while keeping the UI hidden. Again, that doesn't make that big of a difference because it's really easy to just pop the UI back up and press one of those buttons to do one of those things. But I personally believe that it's a bad decision. That's one of those really small features that I think the game would benefit from if you had control over how the theater is being played when the theater UI is hidden. So, anyways, that's pretty much all I had. I wanted this to be hopefully a lot more constructive criticism. I wanted to focus on the specifics, all the things that I think make this theater mode very confusing. And I hope that 343, somebody from 343, I hope that you see this video, or a video like it talking about the same things. I hope that word of this gets to you, 343, and that you can start to implement some changes over time. All things considered, a lot of this stuff isn't that big of a deal, but it is frustrating, and I really do think it's kind of disappointing that the theater mode is this broken. But that's pretty much all I had to say. I hope that you guys are excited for tomorrow. I definitely am. I cannot wait to get my hands on the campaign. So again, that's why I wanted to get the negative stuff I still had to say out of the way today, because tomorrow, it's campaign time, baby. I will catch you tomorrow when the campaign releases. I hope that you don't watch my video tomorrow, because my video tomorrow is literally just telling you to go play the campaign, and I hope that you go play the campaign, dive in, and have some fun. I'm very excited.